When we think of islands, most of us think of a relaxing paradise where we can take a break from the humdrum of our daily lives. Palm trees, sandy beaches, clear waters, and a relaxed lifestyle that would make the most chill beachgoer jealous. But we're not going to talk about those islands. Unless you're a little twisted, there are some islands that you'll want to stay as far away from as possible. Stick around until the end to find out which island is packed with toys that you don't want to play with. Before we get started, take a moment to click on that lovely red subscribe button. Give this video a like while you're at it too. Now here are some of the most frightening islands that you should never visit. Let's start off strong and head on over to Japan. As the majority of us know, Japan knows how to do horror right. They've created some of the most terrifying horror movies, like The Ring. But where did Japan get their ideas for such frightening things? Well, all they needed to do was look in their own backyard. Let's look at Hashima Island as the perfect example of a frightening island. Located just off the coast of Nagasaki, Hashima is one of the 505 uninhabited islands in the area, but that wasn't always the case. It was once known as Gunkunjima, which means Battleship Island. From 1887 until 1974, the entire island was a coal mining facility. As the coal ran dry and petroleum became more popular, people left the island behind. But what makes this place especially sinister is that during World War II, the island was home to thousands of Korean civilians and Chinese prisoners of war. Even though the island has been long abandoned and nature is taking over again, the dark past and decay of the island is enough to make anyone want to stay away. Let's head on over to the coast of North Carolina and visit Roanoke Island. Back in 1585, a group of Englishmen settled on Manteo Island in North Carolina, which was Roanoke Island at the time. But the island was inhabited by Native Americans. By 1586, local tribes drove the Englishmen out. In 1587, the failed settlers apparently thought it would be a good idea to bring more men plus women and children with them on their voyage back to the island. One of the Englishmen, John White, again left Roanoke in 1587 to gather more supplies in England. However, an invasion from Spain delayed his trip back. When he finally returned in 1590, he found that the colony was completely gone. The only clue was the name Croatoan etched into a post, and crow etched into another tree. It was like the colony disappeared without a trace. Even to this day, historians can only speculate as to what happened to the lost colony. Going to stay in the United States for now and head up north to New York City to visit the infamous Ellis Island. Wait, what's wrong with Ellis Island? It was the gateway for over 12 million immigrants from 1892 until 1954. However, not everyone who arrived at Ellis Island got to move on to the mainland. If people arrived sick or injured, they were pretty much kept in quarantine in a hospital until they either recovered or passed away. There is a whole other side to Ellis Island that people don't really know about, and it's fairly frightening. Only recently did Ellis Island unveil the Hard Hat Tour, in which tourists get to see the infamous hospital and even the autopsy room. In 1924, the hospital served as a psychiatric ward for soldiers. Then during World War II, it was used as an internment camp for thousands of German, Japanese, and Italian Americans. The hospital sat abandoned for decades after that, until recently. Clearly, Ellis Island has a much darker side, and it is even rumored to be haunted by the millions of people who walked through those doors and never left. Off the coast of Brazil in the Atlantic Ocean is an island known as Snake Island. Even if you wanted to visit this island, humans are forbidden from stepping foot on it. And honestly, why would you even want to visit this place? There's one deadly snake per square foot on the island, and it's about 106 acres big. So that's a lot of snakes. There are more than enough venomous pit vipers on it to take out a few football teams. The most popular snake on site is the golden lancehead, which is extremely dangerous to humans. The snakes live off of birds that use the island as a resting point during their flights. Big mistake on their part. There have been stories of fishermen naively stopping on the island to collect bananas for food, only to be bitten. Unfortunately, these fishermen are found lifeless in their boats not too long after. So unless you're trying to meet your doom, stay away from Snake Island in Brazil. Speaking of places you should stay away from, you definitely need to keep clear of the Bikini Atoll, which is located in the Marshall Islands. It's where the United States tested 23 nuclear weapons during the Cold War era between 1946 and 1958. In case you're wondering, that radioactive waste doesn't just go away. It has to go somewhere, and it went into the waters and lands of Bikini Atoll. People have been staying away from the area despite it being declared safe in 1997. Testing in 2016 showed that the area still has high levels of radioactivity, so we suggest that you stay away for the sake of your safety and health. It is advised that you don't eat any of the locally grown produce either, so that's telling you something as well. Also, the area is riddled with sharks. Radioactive and shark-infested? No thanks. Yet, sharks aren't the only thing considered dangerous to humans. For this story, we'll need to step into our time machines and head back to the time of World War II on Ramree Island in Myanmar. In 1945, British and Japanese troops were fighting around the island. Eventually, the British overtook the Japanese, and 1,000 of Japan's soldiers retreated into the marshes of the island. What Japan didn't expect was that the marshes were overridden with saltwater crocodiles. Hundreds of troops were decimated, not from the war, but because they became a tasty snack for the local crocodiles. A typical male can weigh over 1,000 pounds and be 17 feet long. So these are huge crocodiles that can probably swallow a grown man whole. This incident even made it into the Guinness Book of World Records as the greatest disaster suffered by humans from animals. Let's head over to the Gulf of Maine to Seguin Island. The island was established as a community in 1795. On this island is a famous lighthouse which opened in 1857, making it Maine's second oldest lighthouse. With so much history, it isn't surprising that some terrible and frightening things happened over the past few centuries. The island is literally in the middle of nowhere and spans about 64 acres. Today, rumors circulate that the lighthouse is haunted. There is a legend of a tragic incident that took place in the lighthouse in the 1800s that remains poignant to this day. Monotonous piano tunes can be heard along with a little girl ghost and the ghost of a man upset that his furniture is gone. Cabin fever can make you do crazy things. A half-mile from Venice, Italy, sits a tiny island that was used as a last resort location for plague victims during the Roman Empire. Many breathed their last breath on this island as they were ostracized from society for being sick. During the medieval times, the island was used once again for plague victims. The island became so overrun with bodies that they were either thrown into mass graves or burnt. Today, the soil on Poveglia Island is rumored to be 50% human ash. A structure for sick people was built in 1793 and was a functioning quarantine structure until 1814. Then, in 1922, a psychiatric hospital was opened because they needed a place for the clinically insane. Poveglia is considered by many to be haunted. You can take a guided boat tour there if you want to experience it for yourself, but we suggest that you don't. After that uplifting information, let's talk about Miyakejima Island in Japan. If you ever decide that you want to live there, you are required to have a gas mask. That might be why it has earned the nickname of Gas Mask Island. Why the gas masks? Well, it's a volcanic island with Mount Oyama being the main volcano in the area. In 2000, there was an eruption that covered the surrounding area in volcanic ash. This resulted in a mass evacuation. The residents that live in the area don't seem to be poisoned by it at all. Apparently, the area is beautiful for scuba diving and dolphin watching. Today, it is a popular tourist spot with the occasional sirens going off, forcing you to wear a gas mask at times so you can breathe properly. We saved the creepiest and most frightening one for last. The Island of the Dolls is located just south of Mexico City, and if you're squeamish about dolls, you'll want to stay away from this place. Where did the dolls come from? Well, tragically, a little girl met her end on the island. The only resident of the island, Don Julian Santana, found her floating in the river. He saw a doll floating down the river as well. Assuming the doll was hers, Santana hung the doll in a tree. He then continued to hang dolls in the area to not only remember her, but to also appease her restless spirit. Yes, there are ghosts involved in this story too. What doesn't help in the creepy factor is that the dolls are mutilated. They're missing limbs, eyes, they're dirty, and are tied to trees by the neck. Overall, this island looks like something straight out of a horror movie. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.